Hey, so folks, welcome to this latest edition of our employment transition ministry. But I thought we'd do something a little bit different today. This quarantine has been going on so long, and it's impacted so many people. And right here in our parish, as we've been trying to show you, we have so many qualified, interesting, and talented people who have great advice for all sorts of different things that are going on during this time for us. And today we have with us Ken and Nancy Kuhn, who are parishioners of St. Pat's, have been for a while. And they're here and they're raising their family. And in addition to being parishioners, they're also licensed marriage and family therapists. And I have a lot of questions about that, especially things that are going on right now. And so, Ken and Nancy, why don't you just maybe just tell us a little bit about yourselves as we get started?
Okay. Yeah.
We've been parishioners of St. Pat's since 2001 when we got married. Our kids have gone to St. Pat's through kindergarten through 8th grade. We just had an 8th grader graduate.
And a three-peat, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so we have 2 high school boys, both are at Marmion, and Annabelle will be going to Rosary in the fall. So, yeah.
That's,
and then we raise it. What's that?
So that's wonderful. And we're glad that, I had Annabelle in 8th grade. And so,
yes, you got to know her.
And she's going to graduate soon. We just came up with a graduation date. Did you guys get that email?
Yes, we were so excited.
The graduation.
As we slowly emerge from this virus, we're starting able to schedule some things. So that's very exciting for you guys. And in your work with folks as marriage and family therapists, like what have you noticed most about how this has impacted families and the things that they're going through?
Yeah, and there's the negative impacts that we all deal with, and that's there too. But one of the things that stood out for me is some of the positive effects that I've seen, and I think you too. And it's what I mean by that is that it's kind of gotten people to pause and step back and recognize the value of what they have in their life. And it's set aside time for people to just focus on each other, on the relationships, and spending time together. And we're seeing things like people, playing dominoes and going to the forest preserve, and the kids saying, Mom, Dad, can we do something?
Right.
And I think that the way I make sense of it is, when we're facing loss, the anxieties about the future kind of dissipate, ironically, in that we spend so much of our time in future-oriented thinking, and what's going to happen next? What do I want to achieve next? What do I want to happen in my family next? And it's all kind of future-oriented. When you're facing loss, you kind of stop and say, God, just let everything stay the same. Just don't let anything change in my life. And it brings you back into the present, and the natural follow in the thought process there is gratitude. Appreciation for what we have, and I've seen that a lot with families, where they've just kind of huddled the most important part of their life into the home during the quarantine, and it's been a real value too, in addition to some of the hardship.
Yeah.
And I think I saw like the first 6 weeks of the pandemic, people were really like kind of stunned with the loss, like more focused on kind of the loss of things, the loss of freedom, the loss of connection with people, loss of income, and the security, job security. And now I see people starting to kind of like try to clamor for what can I get back? What can we start to add back into our life? And I think now I'm starting to pick up on a little bit more more anxiety and anxiousness to get back to regular life, you
Right.
know?
Right. You know, one of the things that's inspired me is just talking with people and how, yeah, as you at the beginning, it's like especially with families, they maybe went through a period of loss, but then they sort of embrace this, like, all right, we get to eat meals and we're watching, you know, Netflix together and we're playing, we're being creative, we're not spending as much time on our devices, we don't have the distraction of extracurricular activities,
Yeah.
and that's a beautiful thing, because I think a lot of families needed that. There was so much competition for family time. But yeah, now as we slowly emerge from it, we start having to answer some of the questions like, all right, yeah, what about my finances? What about my job? What's school going to look like in the fall? And how do we re-enter into all this? And then you throw in the mix of all the craziness going on right now with you know, the violence and everything. It's it can be pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I had my brother my brother Matt came over the other night. He and his family and his wife were for pizza, and they have a young boy. He's going into kindergarten this fall, and they mentioned, he goes, yeah, he's kind of depressed, this little kid. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And he goes, well, he's just around the house with us all day, and he misses his friends, and he wants connection. He wants to go to the park, and he doesn't understand it. And so you don't even realize that this affects even like the littlest kids or the oldest adults. And so I suppose what kind of I suppose you already kind of hinted at the advice is, you know, how do you stop trying to focus more on the future and things you can't control, or do you focus just what's in front of you and how to, like, all right, how's the Lord going to enter into this, and what's he trying to do with this? How do you do it?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think one of the life lessons that maybe we're all having to face right now, and some of us have had to face it in other ways, like when we've experienced tragedy in life, but that there's uncertainty. There's no certainty in life. And we all think that tomorrow is going to be just like as we expect it to be. But certainty is just a feeling. It's not really a fact.
Or belief.
Right, a belief. But the uncertainty, if we can learn to expect that uncertainty is a part of life, and we need to find a way to respond to it. And we can either respond to it as that it's a threat or a challenge. So if we respond to it as a threat, we're going to see like uncertainty and you know, the future as dangerous, and it creates fear. But if we kind of look at it as like, wow, this is a challenge. What can we do to face this challenge? What can we do to rise to this challenge and find ways to cope with it? Find creative ways to enjoy life and not just be fearful and anxious.
Yeah, I think that you know, similar in regards to the human emotion, the anxiety that comes up for people, and you know, how do you deal with it? Not just psychologically, but spiritually, is recognize what you have control over and what you don't. And so often we feel the outcome and we don't accept what we don't have control over. Yeah, but if I don't have control over it, you still don't have control over it. Focus on it and put energy into it. And so it's really shifting your energies to the part you do have some control. And one thing that I think was a perspective I was fortunate to have going into it, which was, where's the good in it? This is a bad situation, globally, but where's the good in it? Because there's really pros and cons to almost the situation and set of circumstances that comes along. So to make an effort to find the good and bring the good out of it.
Yeah.
And approach it with some foresight of, okay, how are we going to, you know, a year from now, what will we want that period in our life to reflect, and how do we want to be remembered?
Yeah, because I've talked to some people who say that as difficult as this time is, they're in a place with it where they know and their kids know that 20, 30 years from now, they're going to look back on this and say this was one of the most blessed times they ever had as a family.
Right.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make the most of it, and in doing that, they're bringing about a lot of just wonderful dynamics in their family. Yeah, I was just out walking before I got on this call with you guys, and I found myself, there's like 20 minutes of my walk where I was thinking about all the stuff that's going on and how I can't control it, how I can't do anything about it. And I was looking at it as like, as soon as you said looking at it as a threat, that's exactly what I was doing. And I was getting all anxious. And the reason why I was out on the walk was just to kind of blow off some steam and get some fresh air. And I found myself actually making myself worse because I was looking at it, all this stuff as a threat rather than, all right, it's a challenge. What am I, and how are we as a parish, gonna move into it? So as soon as you said that, I was like, that's going to be my homily this weekend. So thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Yeah, but even just walking into the grocery store and seeing people in masks, like I have this first reaction is sadness. Like I see masks and I just feel sadness. But then I begin to feel like, but you know what? We're facing this. We're doing this for each other. We're protecting each other. We're trying to protect, the world. And yeah, so it's kind of like we're going to have those feelings. Right. We're going to have the threat. We're going to have that fear, and we're going to have that anxiousness and sadness and loss. But then we have to face it. Yeah.
And one of the things I was thinking about was, and some of the problems are pretty real for relationally too. That when this thing hit, and people were not going to work and they were home together, husbands and wives and their kids, and maybe some of the dynamics in those families wasn't so hot to begin with, and some of those marriages weren't on the best footing, and now all of a sudden they've got this massive amount of together time, and maybe they're not equipped to deal with it. So what kind of how would you help, or what would you tell somebody like in a husband or a wife who may have been struggling at the beginning of this and have really had to dig deep in order to make it through? Have you noticed any of that, or what kind of advice do you give folks like that? Because that's a pretty real thing.
Yeah, I was most concerned about the people who went into the quarantine with issues, which we all have, some to varying degrees. But I was most concerned about people who went into the quarantine without the tools to address it, because I knew that the spotlight was going to be shown on the relationship issues that were there.
Yeah, they're going to bubble up. Yeah,
right.
I think what I'd say to people coming out of it was, is now you know.
Yeah, that's good information. It's hard information, but it's good.
It's not as though it wasn't there before, and maybe you were able to avoid it because of the busyness of life or different schedules or avoiding each other.
Right, because you come and go. You would have the normal see you later, honey, and you don't see each other for 8 or 10 hours a day, and you could come home and kind of get lost in your TV or
run the kids around,
and avoid each other.
Yeah.
But
so
this kind of forces you to deal with each other.
So again, it's so now you know the bad situation. What good can you bring out of it? Or now that you know that the problem is there, how do you want to approach it?
Right. And so
yeah.
And so emerging from this with that information, that's a perfect opportunity for them to just make decisions about, all right, how can we heal from this? How can we get help to manage our way through it? And so it was a great opportunity for a lot of marriages. Huh?
Right. How do we address it? Because what's happened is it's brought the problem that was already there to the surface.
Yeah.
Maybe they're upset, maybe they're distraught because they have a clear picture of how serious the issues are.
Yeah.
But again, it's not as though they weren't there. They just have a heightened awareness of it. So you want to capitalize on that. So
take some good action and don't ignore it, and get to work, right? So in this time too, we know a lot of people who are going through all sorts of different things, you know, we love them and we care about them, but sometimes we're not quite sure how to help them. And so from let's say the person who's all by themselves, maybe they lost a spouse and they went into this and now they're just all alone. Or maybe that couple that's struggling in their marriage, or one of the kids is not feeling so hot. If you see people and you care about them, what kind of advice would you give somebody to reach out and help?
Well, one thing I always try to tell people, especially people who are depressed and lonely and isolated, reach out to somebody else and help offer yourself to somebody else. Like, kind of like try to pull yourself out, at least maybe to call someone once a day and say, hey, how are you? You know, like, instead of, getting caught in your own self-pity, like, realize, you know what, somebody probably could hear from me today. Who could I call today and just say, hey, how are you? And
right.
So giving to others, like acts of service, even if it's your neighbor, like drop off some flowers or something if you're a gardener, or but
and pull you out of yourself.
Yeah, to pull you out of yourself. Yeah. That helps.
And then on the other side of that exchange is, the person who's hearing about. I think okay. Your mic keeps muting.
Yeah.
There we go.
There.
How are we doing? Okay. I thought you guys were. It was me.
Muted again.
There we go. All right. So maybe go ahead.
I was going to say, on the other side of that exchange, when you're doing the listening, is I think it's important to remember that there's a power in just being present to people suffering, as I'm sure you're aware of, in what you do, and it's something that I learned from Msgr Schwartz early in life. Just being present to it, and it kind of reminds me of, I guess a quick example would be just standing in line at a wake. You're saying, what am I going to say? I mean, how can I possibly make this better? Or, you can't. And then I realized I don't have to do anything. Just be present with people in this time.
Right.
And so, somebody comes out of this and they're really struggling. Sometimes it's just helpful to just let them talk. And as far as if there's something to do, that's usually going to be revealed through what you hear, and in listening and just helping them to kind of process it, and then maybe some practical solutions will arise that you can suggest.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because oftentimes I go into situations and I'm not quite sure what to say, and I always have to stop and say, you don't have to.
Right.
There we go. It's great to see you. It keeps going off there. It's great to be with you, and I'm just thrilled that we were able to have this time to visit. And I know that some of the things we talked about are definitely going to help our listeners and the people in our parish who are watching this. So again, my last question would be, if somebody is in a situation and they've seen this and they want to reach out and call you or talk to you, is that something that would be available to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We're offering, like, this week we're back in our office where we could see people face to face, or we also do teletherapy just like this, which has worked really well for a lot of people.
Sure.
So we'll be able to offer that as well.
Well, I really appreciate you making that offer. That's going to be a huge help to some folks. And thanks for giving me the time today, and thanks for being such awesome parishioners at St. Pat's. I appreciate it.
Thank you for all your fun videos that you've put up lately.
And the drive-bys.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been really inspiring, and
just trying to keep the connection, right? We got to do it. So all right. Well, thank you so much, Ken and Nancy. God bless you, and folks who are watching. Thank you so much for all your participation and for all your prayers. All right. So God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Bless you.
Thank
Bye.
you.